Good evening, everyone. I haven't hugged everybody and give you any sugar today, so that's kind of a southern custom, especially at a Baptist church, but we're all trying to be here and be careful too. My name is John Bain, and I don't always mention that. I hardly ever present myself, but I want you to know that I'm Carissa's father, and I'm very proud to be Brian's father-in-law. I'm honored tonight, to be able to preside at this memorial and this celebration of the life of Victor Earl Buel. I've known the Buels for 10 years, and they've included us into their family. We've been in their home. We've eaten up their groceries. I've slept on their couch and in their beds. I've watched the kids play by the lake that they owned. We've celebrated holidays with them. We've been out to eat. We've traveled together. And they're just wonderful people. I'm glad to know them, and it's an honor to be able to speak. As a minister, for nearly 50 years, I've presided over many memorial services and funerals. Sometimes it's very difficult to know what to say, and some occasions are sadder than others. Just a little bit more on this, Danny, if you would, please. But there's no loss for words for Vic, because in my estimation, as someone who's only known him a few years, I believe he had a wonderful life. It was rich and full. It had all of the ups and downs of life and all of the good times and bad times that human beings have. But he had a wonderful family, and we love them each and every one. It's an honor to speak in his behalf, and it's very easy to say good things about him and the memories that I have of him. I want to draw your attention to a passage of Scripture, Paul's second letter to the preacher boy, Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 4. It is noted by scholars as probably the last letter that the Apostle Paul ever wrote. God called Paul to be the author or the communicator of most of the New Testament, the second half of the Christian Scriptures. And he wrote, Timothy was a traveling companion with him and someone that Paul had raised up in the faith. And Timothy had traveled with him as a church planter. But now he was in Rome, in Nero's prison, and he was awaiting execution. And here in the second letter, in the 4th chapter, he is writing the last words that we'll ever read from his pen. You will find that last words, the last thing you said, the last thing you heard someone say, the last thing you remember, the last thing you did together, the last happy memory, those are to be cherished, and they're always important, almost always. Here Paul says, "For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give to me at that day, and not only to me, but also to all of them that love his appearing." When he talks about the appearing of Christ, he's really talking about where we'll soon be celebrating Christmas, Christ's first appearance on that Bethlehem night when he was born in that manger. But then we know of his life. If you're familiar with Christian history, of the gospel story of Jesus, and then he left with a promise that he would return. But also there's another kind of appearing, and that's when we appear before him. As Hebrews 9:27 says, "It is appointed unto man once to die." All of us here tonight, that's something to think about, and I know you have. All of us here tonight, regardless of what your life is like, our lives are going to end. Perhaps someone will speak kind and gracious words about us. Perhaps those of whom we love will weep for us and miss us. But Christians believe that when we leave this plane, that there is a life after we die. After our bodies die, our spirit carries on, and one day we'll be reunited. No need for a theological lesson or a Bible or a Sunday school lesson, but Vic was a Christian, and he believed that when he died, that his life would continue on. Who he was, his spirit, his personality, his memories, who he was, his consciousness, his awareness, everything that we loved about him, everything that you loved about him, nothing is lost. It continues on. And we believe that we'll see him again. That's a tremendous hope. And the reason we believe this is not just because we are religious people or that we have a philosophy or a mystical belief. But we do believe in the eyewitness testimony of the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And we believe the reason he did all of that was to show us that it's possible for us as well. Let me lead us in just a word of prayer, and then I want us all to reflect and to celebrate and to thank God for our varied interactions and experiences and memories with Victor Buel. Father, thank you so much for your joy that you can give us even in sad times. Thank you that we have wonderful memories and we also have great hopes. That when a spirit departs from a person's body, it's not the end of everything, and we can have great hope that we'll see our loved ones again. Help us to love and cherish and enjoy every single person who's around us, everyone in our family, everyone among our friends, with the understanding that life is so fleeting and it can be so brief and it can be gone in a heartbeat. Help us to learn from the loss of people for whom we care, to learn that we need to cherish and treasure every moment, every breath here upon this earth. Father, I pray that you would comfort the Buel family and all of Vic's friends in a way that only you can, that you would bring a sense of comfort and peace over a life that was well lived. It was a good fight. It was a good race. It was a good run. It was full with many reasons for celebration and happiness. And even the trials made that life richer. Thank you for paths that have crossed, people whom you brought together, who never knew each other before, to become family and friends forever. We dedicate this time to you, and we thank you for the testimony of this life. I pray that you would continue for the rest of our lives to warm our hearts with wonderful memories of the past and light the fires in our heart of faith and hope of reunion later. We ask this, Lord Jesus, in your name. Amen. I enjoyed the opportunity. The family gave me a truckload of photographs and to scan them in. And I'd never seen these photographs before, so I got to travel around the world with the Buels. Many wonderful places that they went, beautiful places. Christy has prepared a program for us today that has the obituary in it and some carefully chosen words to tell you things that you may or may not have known about Vic. And I want us to reflect upon those just a minute, but I want us to take just a minute of quiet and silence to look at these photographs and to look at the people who are here. There are many people who have joined our service online and just couldn't be here today. But they're with us electronically. There are others who don't have that means, but they're thinking of you and thinking of this family just now. Let's pause for just a few minutes, and if you haven't looked at this yet, it's really the kind of thing that you might fold up and put away or in your pocket and glance at later. But if you have one of these, it is carefully prepared. Often when you go to a funeral service or a memorial service, you have something that's kind of been prepared by a staff member on site. This is put together just for you by the family. Let's take just a moment, if you would, to look at that. And I'm sure that you might have things yourself that you, from your own experience with Vic or with Nair or their family, that could add to this celebration. And please, don't leave tonight without telling something. Tell someone your favorite Vic and Nair story. Tell them something. I love for people to come up to me and say, may I tell you something about your dad or your mom that you probably didn't know? Let's take just a moment. Would you do that? I don't believe that I've ever said this about anyone in a sermon or a message before, but I believe that I can say it truthfully tonight that Victor Buel had the smartest, most beautiful grandchildren that I have ever seen. loved you girls, all three of you. And he's got another granddaughter on the way, and he'll see her too. I don't know if when I depart from here, I don't know if I want to hang around watching you guys or not. I think it might be too much fun and other things to do, and things to see, and places to go. Who knows? It's only been very recently that the Buels, that Vic and I are moved to this area. Circumstances prompted them to make a relocation. And I know that was difficult to do. It was challenging, and a lot of difficult decisions were made. But I have to say selfishly that I was glad during this time that they were a little bit closer. And they began, Vic and I began attending our church. They sat right over here, and they became some of our, during the pandemic, some of our most faithful attenders. And I look forward to seeing them every Sunday. And so that is a kind of an unexpected privilege and pleasure to see them coming in through the door. And I know that any kind of outing for them through this process and this time was very difficult. And so for them to make the effort and to be here, it meant a lot to me and to our family and to the people here at our church. It is something that speaks of the way they approach life about everything. Commitment, dedication, faithfulness, loyalty. Brian has given me some words to read, and it is, if you will, as he's asked me to read this in his behalf. And if you would, as you hear these words, and I trust that I can read them faithfully, to read them as if they were spoken from him to his Father. The first few words, however, are words of appreciation to you. He says, as I said, this is from Brian. I want to thank everyone here today and everyone streaming, and especially Walnut Grove Baptist Church and Brothers John and Danny Bain for your support and assistance and messages of love over the past week and a half during this time of grieving. And then he has some words to speak to his Father. And let me say before I even begin, I think we all have regrets. There are all things we wish we'd done differently or we could have done. There may be something that you wish that you had said to someone in your life, or something that you did say and you'd like to say it again. Don't let something as little as the passing of a loved one stop you from declaring your love and your appreciation and your thanks. Write a letter. Stand before a grave. Speak to the heavens. Do whatever you need to do. Is someone listening? I don't know. Maybe so. But don't hesitate to do something exactly like this, because it'll help your heart as well. And it's filled my heart just having already read them. Dad, there's a common theme that I've noticed in the short time since your passing, the positive impact that you've had on others in their time of knowing you as a friend, a church member, and mentor. I cannot describe how lucky my sister and I are to have had you as a father and my mother having you as a husband. You led your life watching over us in what I would describe as a quiet manner and leading by example. I would think it's safe to say Mother did enough talking for all of us, especially in those loud, long conversations in Portuguese to her family in Brazil. I can almost hear that. Many of those times she seemed to have those animated conversations while someone was trying to take a nap. The common theme in speaking with your friends, Dad, seems to be how nice a man you were. How you put everyone else's needs ahead of yours. How you never wavered in helping your church or a friend in need. I spoke with our former exchange student, Lulu, and she told me a story of how you took the time to drive her to Birmingham for a test and helped her overcome an issue that she was dealing with, an issue she was in tears about. She spoke of the little gestures you did to make her at ease for some decisions that she made and that she was upset about. Those little gestures have stuck with her over 30-something years today. Many of the things you did seemed impulsive to me, yet were probably only natural to you. I remember one time leaving Madison Square Mall and there was a lady broken down by the side of the road. You didn't say a word. You made a U-turn and went back and helped this lady get to safety and called for help on a payphone. I could remember you doing this many times with stranded motorists, never once seeming to be inconvenienced. I can see now that you were teaching me without ever saying a word. I remember church being a very important part of your life. I remember you giving what seemed to me large donations every week to the church, even though it would seem that money was tied around our home. I remember you always let me put the check in the offering plate. I know how family was very important to you. You showed this so many different ways. You drove us all down to Mama's and Papa's, over 5.5 hours away, multiple times a year, each year. I did not realize at the time, but I'm so grateful now to be able to have that relationship with the only two grandparents I've known who've both had such a positive impact on my childhood, and to be able to see my uncle and cousins while visiting. I remember so many other positive experiences in my childhood because of you. I remember piling up in the bed of a tiny Toyota pickup truck with the McDonald's kids and taking an unknowingly dangerous trip across the state to spend a week at the beach. I remember all those local Brazilian family getting together multiple times a year and being louder than any normal get-together other families around have experienced. I remember you graduating from UAH when I was very young and not understanding why you graduated from this local school when you had already graduated from the premier university of the state, Auburn University. I see now what an accomplishment that must have been for you, and I only wished I could have understood its meaning at the time. I remember the first Auburn football game you took me to. It was Auburn versus Tennessee, it being a top 5 match at the time. We sat in the upper deck, miles away from the action. It ended in a 26-26 tie with the University of Tennessee missing a field goal with time expiring. You fell over and landed on the screaming fans around you in disbelief, and I was embarrassed, yet no one cared, and we were all screaming with you. Some even assisted you, standing back up and hugged you, and I hooked up from that moment on, and I would later learn of this new family I had no idea even existed. I seem to remember you never missing a single one of my own games in soccer, football, and baseball. I'm not even sure you ever missed a practice, although I have no idea how you could have ever attended them all. I never told you how much that meant to me. Maybe I didn't realize it at the time. I understand now after having my own kids with their own activities and events. I'll never forget your laugh, your true, coming from the deep within the belly laugh my sister and I seem to have enjoyed so much. When you laughed, she and I laughed alongside you. I'll never forget seeing you read maps from a large book. I've never seen someone who could sit there for hours just studying maps for absolutely no reason while sipping on your favorite French liqueur just before bedtime. I love how you cherished Carice and her family. You accepted her as one of your own, and I remember how you always reminded me, son, you married up. One of the regrets we will endure in the coming months is the absence of your presence at the birth of your newest granddaughter, Harper Victoria. But I know we will see you there in spirit at God's side. I do understand, maybe not to the full extent through your eyes, but I was not an easy son to deal with. I noticed you were always kind and smiled to people you came across, but with me you always seemed to have a permanent frown between your eyebrows, more so in my teenage years. You didn't always talk very much on father and son outings, but the little things that you did say went very far. Maybe you knew that if you led by example in front of me, that you might have a chance in this life of getting through to me. I cannot possibly compliment you any better than your friends and family have over the past 11 days, but I end by saying, if I'm able to become just half the man you were, you will have accomplished more than anyone could have imagined. And until this day, I now know why God chose you as my father. That's wonderful. And as I said, these are things, Brian, I can say that he knew that you felt, whether they had ever been said before. It is events like this that focus things for us, clarify things. They bring things to the surface. So that is only natural. I wonder, it is something not traditional in Southern memorial services. We don't do eulogies much, but we generally expect the pastor, our minister, our priest to say all of the words. But do you have something that you'd like to share this evening? Is there anyone here that you'd just like to, just in an impromptu fashion, just something you'd like to say to add tonight to our public gathering? Anyone at all?
It was the first friend I had when I moved to Alabama from Connecticut. That would be 1976. I think my year was, maybe Chrissy was born or not yet born. We met. We met the Buels, and we've been friends ever since. Recently, I recall we had a house with a pool and harvest, but we since moved, and even Larry will know this. We did cannonball diving board. This was just a few years ago. Those were good times for us.
I remember when we lived in Huntsville, when she lived in Huntsville, we used to ride our bikes in the high school when it was closed into Brewster's. And we always promised Phoebe that we would not eat the Brewster's before our dinner. And of course, can't keep a promise because
Anyone else? Anything else? Memorial sermons.
I'll give you one more.
All right.
He took me in like his own child. I could call him for advice. He always gave the best advice. And he's just one of the greatest men I've ever met.
Thank you.
I'll add a little something to that too. As I sit here and look at these photos and I listen to my friends here and the family of the Buels and so forth, had the privilege to know this man and his family, and it's amazing. You see him smile in these pictures, but that was permanently stuck on his face.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. So that always, and when I saw that, I was amazed. I just thought it was us, but he always made you feel special, and that's what I really, really loved about him. He was more interested in you. He seemed genuinely excited to see you and be able to talk with you when he saw you. He was excited about that. Love the man. Really, really good man. Genuine heart, and you can tell where his family got it from. Special.
A number of years ago, I attended the memorial service for a beloved pastor in this area, and they had a sharing time and a thank you time, similar to this. And his daughter stood up and she said, "My daddy never cussed." And I said, oh, I wonder what Carice is going to say. Maybe she'll find something, but that's not one of them. These are also teaching opportunities. As Brian indicated in his letter, that it seems to me, apparent to me, that many of the things he did were a way of saying, this is the way to do something. This is something I want you to see happen. This is something that you need to learn. This is something I want you to be a part of or to see, to be involved in. It's character, it's class. This is a way to be a man. This is a way to behave as a father and a husband. Those kinds of things. Nothing is done just vainly. In varying degrees, Avery and Addison and Emerson are maturing and growing to understand what it means when someone that we love, when anything we love is gone. And that happens. It's a part of our life. And so they have different abilities to understand. Emerson is growing and maturing so quickly. All three of them are. And they'll soon have a toddler that will annoy them and pester them and want to do everything that they do, and they'll teach her to do as well as they have learned. In Paul's words here, he starts with verse 6. He says, I'm now ready to be offered. And the word that he uses is, and we think of an offering as certainly a religious word. We're going to receive an offering here in just a moment to make this a true Baptist meeting. No, we're not. But he used a word for what would be called a libation, or a pouring out. That's really what the word means. He says, I'm now ready to be poured out. And Christians are taught to believe from the Scriptures that we are like a vessel. And really, there were many different ways the Hebrew people worshiped God, and sometimes it was just with a pour offering. And they would take a basket full of grain and just pour it out. It was a way of saying, this is for you. God didn't need the grain, and it would just lie there on the ground. But it was not just a picture of something that was being extended, but it was a picture of emptiness. It was like a container full of water or full of wine, and they would often have drink offerings, oblations, and they would just pour it out. It was a symbolical gesture. It was a figurative or symbolical practice. And we believe the Bible teaches that our bodies, our flesh and blood, what we see here in these photos, is just a container. We believe that. It's our flesh and blood. It's not going to last forever. It'll go away. And even when it is buried. Did you know that Vic chose, it was his choice, to donate his body to science, to medical science? That's why there's no casket and no viewing. That's amazing. What is the greatest gift someone could give than themselves? There's no idea of the advances that might be made, not only about his sicknesses and his disease and his afflictions, but young surgeons, medical students, nurses, technicians will have an opportunity to learn something from him, from his gift. He poured himself out. That's something to think about, isn't it? Have you and I, have I done anything like that? Have I given any gift that I could say measures to that? I don't think so. But we do believe that we're just a container. And it wears thin. It gets old. It wears out. And it quits. It always does. Our bodies. They don't last. But you know, apart from my religious convictions or even my theological training, I feel so young, and I still think I can pick that up or jump over that, or I still think I can run or jump or play. It's because whatever there is that this container holds, it's really hasn't changed all that much over the years. I've added to it, and others have added to it. But this pouring out that he says, I'm ready to be poured out. And what it means is that he realized that who he was, Paul, who you are, your personality, your thoughts, your memories, your mind, your consciousness, your awareness, everything about your personality and your intellect and your emotion. I don't believe no one will ever be able to persuade me that we are just a collection of hormones and mechanical responses and electrical synapses firing and that we're just a mass or a mess of chemical responses. I believe that we do have a spirit. There's something that animates us. There's an energy, a source. It is our life. It is really who we are. But it does leave. We pour it out. And he says, "In the time of my departure is at hand." The word departure there is from a word which means to loose. And he's really talking about the moorings on a boat. He's talking about weighing anchor and taking the ropes that are holding the boat to the dock, severing the ties, launching the ship. He says, the time of my departure is at hand. I love seeing all the places that they went. I believe that one of the most important things in Vic Buell's life was his family. I don't know of other things, but I would say possibly number two in the special places in his life was his joy of traveling, of going places and seeing faraway places, going to places he'd never been before, and the only thing that made that the greatest of all was when he was able to take family with him, or to take these wonderful photos and share them with his family when he got back. He has now departed on the greatest adventure of his life. I believe that. He's going someplace he's never seen. Someplace that he's never been before. He has gone on the greatest, most wonderful leg of his life's journey. I believe that with all my heart. And I believe that already he has seen and done more than he had ever seen down here. And I believe that he would recommend it to you highly. There's plenty of room and reason to weep or to grieve or to be sad, but also to be thankful and grateful. He is gone. And we talk about a better place. You know, I've never been to heaven. I believe in it. I do believe in an afterlife, but I've never been there. The people that I love. You know where I think the better place or the best place for them to be is? Right here. It's I have a clear understanding and a belief in heaven, but it's still difficult for me to think of heaven as a better place than right here, right now. But it's a wonder. It's a tremendous thought of hope. And I believe that he is there. He continues to bless. His contribution of himself will continue to bless and to benefit others. Your memories, the thoughts that you have that are his thoughts, the words that you will hear him say again as you remember them. You will never forget him. And one day, I believe, you will see him. He had faith in Christ. And Jesus came here to to lead the way and to show us how to get from this life to the next one. I believe that, and that's why I'm glad to be called to that. That's my calling, to tell people that they can believe in that that's something they can invest their lives in. It's something to count on. It is something to believe in. I'm going to ask my brother if he would join me up here, and the family has asked if we would sing a few verses of Vic's favorite hymn, and we'll do that and let it be our dismissal tonight. You're more than welcome to stay as long as you wish, but please be careful and be safe as you continue to be here. And please let me know if there's anything that we've overlooked or something that we've forgotten or something we failed to do or say, because this is a moment we'll never have again. Thanks to all of you for the flowers. Some have sent them. Many, as I said, as we determined our viewing. There will be other cards and letters, other expressions, and continued prayers for this family. We won't forget him, and we won't forget you, because right now, if he were here, he would be more concerned about you than anything else. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. If you have the possibility of doing that, especially I encourage the family, go to the Facebook link that will be created after this. There are many people, no doubt, who entered comments. You may want to see those, and I'm sure that there are still viewing, and it'll give you the opportunity to see perhaps who all was present here electronically tonight. If there's someone who missed being here and was not able to see the streaming of this service, it's going to be available on my personal Facebook page. So please let them know what they need to do to view that and see that. And if there, again, as I say, if there's anything that we've forgotten to say or do, then please, anything we may have overlooked, which is always a possibility. Thank you for being here. I don't know what other acts of love or kindness you may have shared, but each and every one of them are appreciated. Let me say to you, family, when my time comes to have a wife stand by me so faithfully and to take such care of me would be a prize. It has been difficult, and Nair has faced some of the greatest challenges of her life, but she has never shone more brightly. She loved him and cared for him. He had the very best medical care. He even had an expert blood pressure taker. Touched my heart that Carice told me that when the time came that Addison said, I want to kiss him one more time. If I could have a kiss like that, I would feel most fortunate. I see a father in these photos dancing with his daughter at her wedding, standing with his son at graduation. Who would have thunk he'd ever graduated at all? If he hadn't had a good study partner, he never would have made it. You took such good care of him, and he was always smiling. He was happy. And even, this was to have such an intelligent, brilliant man to be robbed of so much of who he was in the last. We knew it was still there. It was so hard. This is a terrible thing to face. But you were there with him and for him. And you took great care. You might say, well, sure. Why would you even say something? Listen, as a minister for over these years, I've seen so many people who are abandoned in nursing homes. They're left alone. They die by themselves. And they have no one to hold to their hand when they pass. No one to stand beside their bed or to crawl up in the bed with them. They don't have that. You have a treasure, a gift. And you have responded magnanimously. God bless you. God bless you. He wanted for nothing. He lacked nothing. He never hurt. Yeah, you probably wanted to pinch his head off every once in a while. Makes you mad when you can't do anything, when you want to help, or when you see helplessness. It makes you feel helpless too, doesn't it? And it's just sometimes infuriating. I get mad at God sometimes, and I say, God, what? Give us a little help here. We could use a hand. God bless you for your care and your presence in his life. When I saw him after this recent stroke, lying in his bed, resting so peacefully, with a hint of a smile still on his face, he went home that way. And it was because he wasn't worried about anything, and you were taking care of him. Good job. Good job. Well done. You should have no regrets at all. You should have no regrets. You did everything you could. Now God's got it from here. Okay? Rest at ease. You're still going to wake up at night, maybe thinking that he needs something, or you need to go check on him, or you've forgotten something. But you'll soon be able to let that go. You don't have to worry about Daddy anymore. Only found out that just with these photos that Avery's the spitting image of him when he was a little boy. Maybe she'll grow out of it. I don't know. I cannot help now, however, but looking at her face, I'll see him for the rest of my life. And if you haven't seen that photo, let me show that to you. It's up there. You're like that Miranda Lambert song, I'm just like you, only prettier. God bless you, folks. I love you all. And I'm so excited about this coming baby. And maybe even great-grandbabies on down the line. That just scares me to death. Thank you for being here. Finally got warm. I'm sorry for the mechanical difficulty. We haven't been meeting in this sanctuary for several weeks, and so we knew we had a heating problem, but we thought it was, we had one unit that was working when we got here tonight. Neither one was working. The craftsmen came and they got both of them going. It's actually too warm in here right now. But I'm sorry for the discomfort when you first came. God bless you as you go, and thank you for being here. You're dismissed.